Okay, this video is for anybody in my geometry class that is still having trouble identifying congruent or supplementary angles that are formed by parallel lines and transversal. Now, please remember, if they are congruent angles, you set them equal to each other. And if they are supplementary, you add together and set equal to 180. 180 degrees. I'm sorry, I forgot to put the degree sign there, so I apologize. There we go. Let's go and get started. You have two parallel lines here. Notice that they're parallel lines by these two symbols. And of course, this is the transversal line here. Now the question you have to ask yourself, are these two angles congruent or are they supplementary? And so in order to do that, if you're still having trouble identifying what is the congruent and what is the supplementary angles of these problems, this is what I recommend, is perform your own test to find out. Now, performing your own test is very simple. So this angle right here, I'm going to say this angle is 30 degrees. Okay? I'm just making that up. And so based upon our vertical line postulate that we've learned before, this also would be 30 degrees, to where this here would be 150 degrees, because remember, this is going to be a straight angle, and this right here is 150 degrees. Now you might be asking, well, so are you telling me that 5x plus 3 is equal to 150? No, I'm not. I'm just using these numbers just to see whether or not this angle and this angle are congruent or supplementary. Now, if you remember your steps from this past Friday, you know that these four angles here would be exactly like these four angles here. So if I was to do a carbon copy of this, that would be 150, this would be 150, this would be 30 degrees, and this will also be 30 degrees. Notice that this angle would be my 150, this angle here would be my 30 degrees. So these two angles are not congruent. Okay? So these two angles are not congruent. So what that means is, if I take this back away, since I know this information is not to be congruent, then I'm going to take 5x plus 3 plus, put that in parentheses, plus 2x plus 18 is equal to 180. Okay? So when we do the math, this turns into 5x plus 3 because I'm distributing the unknown, or I'm sorry, the unseen positive 1 out here, and I'm distributing the plus sign, if you will, into this parenthesis, and this is what I have is equal to 180. Now I'm combining like terms. I get 7x plus 21 is equal to 180. And then I will subtract 21, so I get 7x is equal to 159, I believe. And I just made this problem up, so I don't even know if I'm going to get a whole number. I might get a decimal, so let's see what happens. Okay, so when I divide it out, it turns out being x is equal to 22.7. Okay? Now, in order to check, I'm going to take this information and plug it back into x here and plug back into x here. Now, if both these two numbers add up to get to 180, I am correct, and I'll move on to the next problem. And it does, so I know it's right, so I'm going to move on. All right, let's take a look at this problem, okay? Let's say if we were trying to figure out whether or not these two angles are congruent or supplementary. Now, once again, we are going to test it by using any other number, okay, or just using any number that's off the top of our head. So I'm just going to say this looks kind of like a right angle, but it looks like it could be a little less. I'm going to say this is 89 degrees, okay, just making the number up. So if this is 89 degrees, this will be 91 because of the fact that these two angles are supplementary. Now, if I was going to once again apply the vertical angle theorem, it would be 91. And then remember that this down here is a carbon copy. Let's see, that's 89 degrees. This is 91. This would be 91 degrees. And lastly, this is 89. Hey, look at that. Based upon our test, they would both be 89 degrees. So you would say that these two angles are congruent. And then you would take those two angles and set them equal to each other and solve. Now I didn't use an example, so that's as far as we're going to go for this example. All right, next one. All right, here we have once again another problem. And I put some labels on here. That's point C, that's point B, point A. And so what we're going to do is we want to find the measure of CBA. Okay? So this problem here, I'm going to say is 5x, and this, I'm going to use this angle here. I'm going to say that this angle is going to be 5x plus 17. Okay? Now, the question is, before I solve for x, is it going to be congruent, or is it going to be, or are these two angles going to be supplementary? So once again, I'm going to test. Now, when I test, I'm going to make up any number off the top of my head. So this angle here, I'm just going to say this is 40 degrees. Okay? So if that angle is 40 degrees, that angle will be 40 degrees, which means this angle would be 140. This angle here would be 140. Now, using this information for these angles over here, this would be 140, this would be 40, that would be 40, and this is 140. Now, observe, this is 140, this also is 140. So that means that these two angles are going to be congruent. All right? So based upon the fact that they're both going to be congruent, let me go ahead and clean everything back up. I'm going to set them equal to each other because that's what you're supposed to do. So that is 5x is equal to 5x plus 17. Okay, I already see a problem here, and that's going to cancel each other out, so this is going to be no solution. So I'm actually going to change this to 6x plus 17. That will make sense. So I'm going to change it down here to 6x plus 17. All right. So, in fact, I see another problem. Okay, I'll get this right, I promise. Minus 17. All right, so 6x minus 17. So, sorry about that. All right, so we're setting them equal to each other, and then we're going to solve. So, we solve, let's see, I'm going to bring the 5x over here by subtracting 5x minus 5x. And I get 0 is equal to x minus 17. Now I'm going to bring the 17 over here to finish solving for x. So that means 17 is equal to x. Now here's what some students are going to do. They're going to say, hey, I'm done because I solved for x. No, unfortunately, you are not done. You're not done because the question is asking for angle CBA. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this information and you're actually going to plug it into angle CBA, which is 5x. So I'm going to take 5 times 17, and when I do that, I get 85 degrees. So this here, measure of angle CBA, is 85 degrees. So this is your final answer. Now, hopefully, you also checked your work and plugged 17 in for this here to make sure it's right. So 6 times 17 minus 17 equals 85. Okay, we checked our work. We're good. So our final answer is going to be 85 degrees. So hopefully you found this video to be helpful. And if you have any questions, let me know when you see me again. Thank you.